In the last video I showed you how to put in a predefined function called round. So this little video is just to show you another useful predefined function. I'm going to go on this button that says the lucky contestant is, and all I'm simply going to do is pick out a random person. So I'm going to put some random number from the number of contestants, maybe 3 or 8. Well, perhaps not 8 because there's only 7 there. So 3 or 5 or 6 into a storage location. Now I'll need to know how many contestants to choose the random number from. So I'm going to go back to my original button and I'm going to copy the number of contestants and put that up at the top here. And it has to be global because I'll need to use the same value that was produced on here. And I will need this time the contestants' names. So I'm going to copy that across, put that in as a global variable up here, and I'm going to choose a random number from however many contestants. So if it's from, like if I wanted a random number from 1 to 10, I would put 10 there. So in the brackets I'm going to put this variable. So in the case where it's 7, it'll pick a number from 1 to 7, and I'm going to put that into a variable called random person. So let's just make that local because I'm only using it for this particular handler. And having got the random number, I want to pick out their name. So I will need to put the array name, and then because it's an array it needs square brackets, and then if it was contestant 1 you would say contestant name 1 or contestant name 2, but we don't know which one it is. But it's in this variable, so I can just pop that in there, and whatever number it has in it, say it was 5, I will get contestant name 5. So I'm going to put that into this field here. So let's just call that random contestant, and I'll just copy that in. And hopefully I shall get a random person. So let's do 5 people. And the 5th person, let's do there. And let's see who the lucky contestant is. It was E. Let's see if we get a different person. T. W, let's see if there we get E again. So each time I click on there, it gets a new random number and puts the name of that random person into the field so that I can see it. So here I've got another predefined function. It saves you having to figure out how you would get a random number, which is actually reasonably complicated. And I'm using this value to as the kind of range of numbers to choose from. Now the only other thing I'm going to do is put in some internal commentary. So I'm going to put in that this is the number of contestants in competition. And at this level the internal commentary you put in is very often seems a bit redundant because that's fairly obviously the number of contestants. But it's good practice to start putting internal commentary in because this makes your code readable, and as your programs get more complicated, the internal commentary will help other people who need to read it. The other thing that's very good to do is to use meaningful variable names. I could have just used X here, but it's much clearer if I use random person. And this could have been just, I don't know, M, But again, it's much clearer to everybody reading it that that means the number of contestants. So meaningful variable names is a very important thing too. So I'll just do some internal commentary on this. Chooses a random contestant, and I'll go across to this one here. Well, it's got the same variable, so I'm just going to copy that internal commentary there, and I'm just going to comment the handler and just say that this calculates the average contestant age. And lastly, if I go over here, ideally we make it very clear what each of these variables represent. So I'm just going to go in and comment each of these. Well, that's probably the number of contestants in the competition. This was a local variable, so I could actually declare it down here as local. I'm just going to say that it's the loop counting variable, or sometimes called the loop index. And this was also a loop counting variable. So let's just copy that in. And let's just make sure that that's clear. Contestant names, and this is the contestant ages. Maybe we should say that this is an integer. So the more comments you can put in, the better, to make sure it's very clear to anybody reading your program what everything does. So I'll just say this clears the display fields, and so on and so forth. So to be really correct, I would put in a bit of commentary on each of these. So in fact, let's do that here. We'll go asks, let's put prompts the user for the number of contestants. And this gets the contestant's age from user, and this is both name and age in fields, in display fields. So, bit of good programming practice there to internal commentary, meaningful variable names, and then the last thing that's often talked about is the idea of indentation, and you can see that live code automatically indents and then indents further once it's inside a new block of code. And this indentation on white space also helps the readability of your code. Thanks for watching.